Uh,
Hello, this is the Surviving Healthcare Podcast, and I've got my good friend Margaret Aranda here to discuss I Do Not Consent, which is the method of preventing the hospitals from doing whatever the hell they want when you get admitted. So, Margaret, take it away.
hey, thank you so much, Dr. Robert Yoho. Thank you for being here. All my pleasure to know you and have met you in person and actually done jail ward in the same place.
That's right. We did jail warrant ward at LA County, not together, but separately. I think
Yeah.
she's a little younger than I am. So, so I did it a few years before her.
I'm 65, so I'm not as young as you think.
I'm 72.
Oh, there you go. You
There
look
you
good.
go.
You look good. I want to be like you when I grow up.
I
So thank you. Yes, this is a great document, the I do not consent form. I think most people in your audience know already that if you go into the hospital, you can sign your life away. They can give you remdesivir without your knowledge or permission. They can give you a COVID vaccine while you're under anesthesia. We have a nurse whistleblower in that account. And we have another hospital administrator whistleblower who admitted to Dr. Mary Bowden on Twitter that they were injecting the unvaccinated in the ICUs at Riverside Community Hospital with COVID shots
wow.
without their consent or knowledge.
I hope they don't do that in the surgery centers. I had a couple of surgeries in surgery centers.
You have to be careful, and this is the exact reason to have the "I do not consent" form. Just for background, it was created by an anonymous hospital insider who worked for a CEO of a large institution hospital for over 15 years, or something like that, a long time. She's a lawyer and a nurse, and so she created the document for herself and published it. And of course, she remains anonymous, but this is the only legal lawyer drafted document in the world that protects people from hospitals. The interesting thing about it, it's based on your deeply held beliefs, the same as Jehovah Witnesses who don't want a unit of blood.
It's I do not consent form.com.
Yes, yes. And there's two documents there. One is a page of general instructions, and the second is an actual document that includes a cover sheet that gets CC'd to all different kinds of people. And so it's there, it goes to the parent companies, attorneys, department chairs, the chief quality officer, chief of staff, medical director, medical executive committee, and the board of trustees. And it has instructions for the chief of staff's for the CEO's office to put it in your medical record, bypassing the ER doctor and the nurse who in some cases have put their hands in their pockets and refused to accept any paperwork, any legal paperwork from patients.
How do you get all those addresses, or do you just send it to the CEO?
That's a great question. So the general instructions on the first page will give you all the specifics on that, but essentially what you're going to do, download the form, print it out, sit down, fill it out, sign it in front of a notary for free at your bank, follow the instructions in case you're either in the hospital, a surgery center, a nursing home, a rehab facility. The instructions will tell you to get a courier to deliver it to the CEO's office. Even 24/7, you would send it to the house supervisor in a hospital who is always there to represent the CEO's office.
So we're stupid enough we've stuck with Kaiser, which is,
Oh,
industrialized medicine at its worst. So what would you do with Kaiser? Would you send that now before you get
no,
sick? You'd
no.
wait until
You
you got
wait,
sick.
wait till you're admitted to a facility.
Okay.
Yes. And so once you get it printed out and notarized, then you make 10 copies of it. You talk to your next of kin, right? Because a piece of paper isn't going to be as strong as having your next of kin stand there and argue, no, don't give remdesivir. He doesn't want remdesivir. So you have to make sure that you look your loved one in the eye and tell them, I want you to fight for me. And I tell the single woman, get a big burly man to be your caregiver there, your advocate. And then you take a copy of that with you, but you're going to hire a courier, even online courier. You pay them online and then go ahead and give them the document by email or the piece of paper in your hand, and they will deliver it upstairs to the CEO.
So you fill it out ahead of time, have it ready in case you get sick.
That's right. Now, if you didn't get a chance to do that, you can still go while you're sick in the hospital. Your caregiver can do it at the I do not consent form. It makes it much harder because obviously there's not a printer. You want this on a piece of paper, not electronic. So Laura will counsel people through that. You can usually get into, as you and I know, the medical library where they usually have a copy machine, but it's a lot harder then your caregiver's not by your side. Right? You have to ask people to make copies. They never want to do it. You've got to find the medical library, get copies made. Worst comes to worst, you can send it to like a Office Depot kind of place, email it to them, get the courier to go over there first, print it out, and then bring it to the hospital.
The whole thing is so dystopian that I fear I fear that even this isn't going to do any good, that they'll do whatever the hell they want to do anyway.
That's a concern that a lot of people have because people have had strange things happen. And honestly, this is for 18 years old and older only. It's not for children, babies. Abby, the midwife, has a whole list of separate consent and dissent documents. She's in Pennsylvania. She has everything from labor and delivery to newborn care, including the vitamin K shot and the erythromycin eye ointment, right? So Laura's document so far, found at idonotconsentform.com, has been successfully used in every situation where it's been appropriately delivered. So it's a legal document within the BEAST system, right?
Yeah.
You have to recognize it. It'll bypass everything else. You just have to make sure that you only go to idonotconsentform.com because that's the only anonymous hospital insider approved document. Other people host it, but a lot of those are not the original document. They've been altered.
Wow.
Yeah, these are the things that we have to do to protect ourselves. I can read off some of the things that it says to do. So there's a caregivers and consent form. It's not a medical directive or an advanced directive that way. So it's only for 18 and old competent adults. So if you're unconscious, you're not thinking, you're overly drugged because you're in some brain coma condition, then your medical directive will kick in, not this form. It's too late for this form. And I'll come back to what to do if you're in the hospital and they're insisting on giving you remdesivir or putting you on a ventilator so that you can rest, right? But there's no such thing. There is the hospital hostage hotline, which Laura also runs, Laura Bartlett. And that, I'll give you the number, is 888-219-3637. And if you have the I do not consent form, you shouldn't need the hospital hostage hotline.
Hospital hostage, jeez.
I know, right?
So how much of this COVID remdesivir and all that stuff is still going on? I mean, most of us learned about it with Scott Shera's work. But it is just hard to believe that it's still.
Yeah, and Grace Shera never got remdesivir, so that's one of the things. He helped bring that forward, but she didn't. She never got remdesivir, which was a good thing. There was a 13-year-old boy in a hospital less than 3 weeks ago who got remdesivir and died. They're still doing it. The hospital protocols are still in full swing,
And the financial incentives are still in full swing.
Yes. So if you get admitted to a hospital, if you're a motorcycle accident, you get admitted to the hospital, they do a COVID test that comes out positive. They can admit you with a diagnosis of COVID or COVID pneumonia if there's something wrong with your lungs. When you die, they can put COVID or COVID pneumonia on your death certificate. They can put you on a ventilator, give you remdesivir. Scott Shera had, testified that in Wisconsin they were paid $30,000 to put somebody on a ventilator. So some people are getting big money.
Hundreds, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Is this phenomenon as widespread as it was before? I mean, isn't this hasn't this faded a little bit? I mean,
we think that they target people. So if you're married and you're a woman and you walk in with a big burly husband, especially if he's a doctor or a nurse, they're going to know that they can't get away with everything.
yeah.
If you're frail, disabled, single, an adult who's developmentally developed, delayed, they target elders, disabled people because they know you can't fight back quite as much. Yeah, it's still in full swing.
Yeah, but once you understand that they're trying to kill 4/5 of us, everything becomes clear. I
That's
mean, it's just I hate even to spit those words out because it just sounds so crazy. But when you study the whole thing, it's true.
Well, we were shocked also that when Mary Bowden was talking about something, a little bit unrelated, but somebody posted on Twitter X, I'm a hospital administrator, and we were giving unconsented COVID shots in the ICU during COVID. And Dr. Mary was asking her additional questions, and it was Riverside Community Hospital, which is a pretty big
Yeah.
hospital. And all of their patients in the ICU that were unvaccinated ended up getting unconsented vaccines. Yeah.
I can't help but think that it's declined a little bit in the great Trumpian era.
It hasn't. Yeah,
Oh
it
my God.
hasn't. I think maybe it has declined because people are aware of it and they ask questions. And this is what I do, and this is what a lot of us are telling other people to do. So say you need an emergency room because you tripped and fell and broke your ankle and you're by yourself, you're going to call 911, the ambulance is going to come, they're going to take you to a hospital. There are a lot of, and this is what I'm writing my book on, there are a lot of things that you can do to pave your way to the ER. You and I probably remember, you probably did this for your patients. If one of your patients called you after surgery and had like a big pus ball somewhere and you needed to go and meet them in the ER to drain it, you would call the ER ahead of time and say, hey, I'm bringing this patient in. This is Mary Jane, DOB 623, 1979 for the date of birth, admitting for an abscess. Can you, just give you a heads up? And you talk straight to the ER doc.
Right.
So I've done that for people going to the hospital under this kind of an assumption that there's badness going on. And I just did that a couple months ago. And my patient already had an electronic medical record number by the time they arrived to the ER, and they felt that they got VIP treatment. So they know that they've got a doctor overseeing what their admission is doing to them.
They just leave them alone until you show.
Yeah, it does something in their mind where they know they can't treat them like everybody else.
They're being watched.
Yeah, they know there's an insider that will get feedback and start asking key questions. And that's another thing. We've had patients on ventilators that the team would come in and tell the family, your family member, your mother, your daughter is has a really bad pneumonia and she's septic. Well, I would ask them to get some of the numbers, the ventilator, right? What's the FiO2? How much oxygen are they on? Room air is 21%. Are they on 100% oxygen or 50%? And then it's not just that, it's what's the last blood gas? How much oxygen? What's the PaO2 on the blood gas? And then you compare the two.
Now we're lapsing into jargon and technical information here. Aunt Margaret, back up a little bit. Tell us about your background, how you got started on all this, and your professional stuff.
Sure.
So,
I graduated at USC Medical School and then went to Stanford and I did anesthesia. And then I was accepted as one of 3 fellows to do critical care. So I went from there to the University of Pennsylvania and then to UCLA. I was the director of the surgical ICU at the West Los Angeles VA.
This is a very elite background. The
Yeah.
listeners don't understand it, but when I hear that CV, you got to have an IQ north of 140. So go ahead and tell us a little more about getting involved with the whole thing. And
Yeah. You know, it was hard for me to take care of a lot of patients during COVID because I was a solo practitioner. And so here I am by myself with just my staff in the office taking care of 3,000 patients over a couple of years' time in the middle of the night and trying to ship my own meds to them because pharmacists wouldn't do ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, right? And then just 3 of my patients went into the hospital. One of them I was able to get out because I had called ahead and the same ER doc was there that day. So I'm like, remember me? Remember this guy was out in the parking lot and we had a conversation. He's upstairs. Can you get him out of the hospital? He needs to get out. And she did that for me. She walked upstairs and got him out of the hospital. I had heard rumors about, don't go to the hospital unless you've got a bone sticking out of your leg. And my other 2 patients, I was unable to get them out. They both got remdesivir, both put on ventilators, both died.
wow, that's horrible. Remdesivir is a repurposed chemotherapy agent that was claimed to be a treatment for COVID, but it actually had a 80 or 90% fatality rate overall. Just for the listeners who aren't familiar with it, is that a good characterization of it?
Well, also, I think most people cite the Ebola study in South Africa, where it killed 53% of the patients that were on it. So they actually stopped the study and took the remdesivir out, and then Fauci approved it for in hospital only. It's actually now approved for outpatient, like a dialysis center, because you can't kill the kidneys, they're already killed, sort of,
Yeah.
and for children, because we just had a 13-year-old die from it.
Fauci, they've got another week to
Mm.
what is it? Accuse him or
Prosecute him, yeah, for lying in front
yeah.
under oath,
So
yeah,
if they may get him, but they've only got a week before the statute of limitations is up on that bastard. And
right,
so anyway,
yeah. It sure seems like nobody ever gets in trouble for anything ever, although they did. They're doing something with one of his aides, right?
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I thought they were going to use that to leverage against him, but if they only have a week before the statute runs, I don't know how they're going to get him. So we'll see. I mean, it would be satisfying to see people like that locked up, but what are you going to do? They're retired and, they've done their evil
Well,
work.
you know what he did though? This is crazy. In January of 22, after he left his position, he published a paper talking about how we never should have thought a shot in the arm would go to the lungs and prevent a pneumonia. The flu shot never worked. And future shots, we need to have next generation shots, eye drops, nasal spray, and aerosolized, like, air droplets. And so he actually published that paper saying the flu shot never worked. And they're still pushing even the flu shot.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't want any shots. And of course, they're giving our dogs mRNA as well.
Yeah. It limits their lifespan. I mean, we've got a Connie Corso, they don't live that long anyway. And it only got one, I shouldn't say this in public, but it only got one vaccine. And after that, we prevented it. But it's a sick scene. And psychopaths like Fauci, you can only tell that they're lying if their lips are moving.
Right. That's a good one. But I'll tell you this: I do not consent form. Hantavirus, right, is the next one out there that they're talking about, and so a lot of people have been gearing up for the next vaccine, the next pandemic, whether it's hantavirus or Lyme. With alpha gal syndrome and all that. But I'll tell you this: I do not consent form has in it, I do not consent to any vaccine or booster for COVID or a COVID variant. I do not consent to receiving the seasonal flu vaccine. I do not consent to receiving the pneumococcal vaccine, and then I do not consent to receiving any vaccination for any purpose or disease.
That's great.
Yeah.
And for those who haven't been keeping up with current events, every single vaccine is a bioweapon directed against the populace. And I reviewed this. There's 3 books written about it, and there's a study. What is it called? That reviewed the 800,000 people that sampled the 800,000 people who've never had a vaccine of any kind and compared them against the rest of us. And the rest of us have a 60% chronic disease rate, and those people have a 2.3% chronic disease rate. And that can't be a coincidence. The chances of that being coincidental or by chance alone are 1 in trillions. So these things are all terrible. They're all invented by evil, malign forces. And I mean, I'm a little more optimistic. I think after the midterms that, the current administration may go after some of these people. They can't, I don't think they can do it until they win the midterms. But,
Mhm.
RFK knows everything. He knows everything we know. And that means Trump knows it all, because he's close. So I'm optimistic, but things look bleak, and a lot of people complain that RFK hasn't done anything, but he's trying.
I think you're absolutely right. We keep hearing that Trump is playing 3D chess, right? And I think had RFK Jr. come in and just, turn the tables upside down, it would have caused a lot of angst. I think, there have been a lot of disappointments. I think the biggest one is that the children are still getting the shots.
It's awful, but
Yeah.
they can't do anything without the midterms, so
Yeah.
we'll see. We don't want to turn this into political. Half my listeners will desert me.
I know I stay away from political stuff mostly on my Substack because you can just go down that road and never come back.
Yeah, it's
But
crazy.
I wanted to make an extra point about the remdesivir. Here's another thing that has happened. People in the ICU have been told, we're going to give you this drug called remdesivir, and people or their caregivers have said, no, I don't want that one. I'm going to refuse that. And so then they say, okay, well, there's another drug we can give you. It's called Veklury.
Never heard of that. What's that story?
Veklury is the generic name. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So on the I do not consent form, it says, I do not consent to the use of remdesivir or its brand name called Veklury or any drug related to remdesivir or Veklury under any circumstances, in case they come up with another one.
Oh, Christ.
So we have tried to, and Laura and the Hospital Insider let me edit this document more recently so that it includes updates like that. Being anesthesia, we know drugs and different versions can come up. And I forgot to mention Laura Bartlett, her brother, you've heard of Richard Bartlett down in Texas, who started the budesonide protocol.
I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, you're not familiar with him. Okay. So he started the inhaled budesonide protocol, which is a combination bronchodilator and also a steroid that can get delivered straight to the lungs. Studies in the lab show that it killed the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And some people, like Gail Sello, who started Betrayal Project USA, she was in the ICU. She got nothing but budesonide. Went home on budesonide, aerosolized every 2 hours, and she got over COVID. So people that couldn't get ivermectin, et cetera, were doing just fine with budesonide because it's readily available, and the pharmacists never argued with me about dispensing it. They would always dispense it.
Well, Margaret, as you can see, is still a doctor, and I'm just a commentator now. So, so Margaret is very sophisticated, had a wonderful clinical sense from all her work and so on, and can certainly talk about all this stuff a lot better than I can. I'm more of a generalist now, so I'm talking about a lot of things. Do you want to now? It sounds like we've rapidly gone over your material, but
Oh,
do
there's
you?
still more. There's still
Okay,
more.
all right, go ahead.
let's do this one. And I think this would be a good time for me to give a call to Laura because she can add a little bit more. I'm going to put her on speakerphone, but here's a section talking about hantavirus and this and that and the other. You know, they've also talked about a chikungunya virus protocol. Hi, Laura. You're on speakerphone with Dr. Robert Yoho. Hi.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
We were just talking about how the I do not consent form also includes bird flu virus protocol, chikungunya virus protocol, Nipah, Marburg, Ebola, and guess what we thought of several months ago? Hantavirus. We could see that possibly coming in the works.
Very forward thinking on your part, Dr. Margaret.
Yeah, because we always think that they're going to come up with something new. So this tells you that you can't get any variant protocol or other COVID protocol without consulting with you regarding the risks, benefits, and alternatives prior to the implementation of the medication. So the language in there doesn't say like I refuse everything. It says like you have to talk to me about it and I have to consent to it.
Yeah, that's the first sentence or statement on the form is you don't consent to anything until you get full informed consent of knowing the risks, benefits, and alternatives are before you make your decision of yes, I consent or I don't consent. And that puts the onus on the doctor to prove that he gave you informed consent when you proactively deliver this document before you cross the threshold of the hospital, the hospital itself. You're preempting all the shenanigans, as Dr. Margaret likes to say.
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans. That's a very kind word.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, yes. Trust me, I know, having done hospital rescue for the last 5 years, shenanigans is very generous. But yes, it gets ahead of all the things that they are already planned to usurp your power. So it takes the power back to the patient. Patient decides what they want to consent to or not consent to. And I hope that eventually this becomes something that nationwide gets rolled out as a requirement of hospitals. That would be a dream, that they offer this type of paperwork for patients upon admission to refuse things. You know, you wouldn't go into a store, a big box retailer, and expect that they just load up your cart with a bunch of things that you never asked for. You went into Target just to get a charging cable and you walked out with a flat screen TV that's on your, charged to your credit card. That's ridiculous. But in hospitals, they do that sort of thing. And the consequences are much more dire than coming home with a flat screen TV that you didn't want and being charged for it. It's something that actually could potentially harm you. So, yeah, this is an enormous help for patients to gain back their sovereignty and their power instead of just going along to get along with what is obviously kind of gamed out in favor of the hospitals. I think when you walk into a hospital, it's like walking into a casino. All the odds are in favor of the house. And it's that way when you walk into a hospital. I'll let you take it from here, Dr. Margaret.
There you go. Robert, one of the things that Laura does and that I do also is encourage people that we really feel that once you have this I do not consent form, you don't have to be scared of a hospital because it scares you. Like, so Laura always says, don't be scared, be prepared.
Almost everything scares me these days. Everything scares me these days. I'm still scared.
Well, here's another one. Okay, so we've had people getting blood transfusions, right? Without knowledge. A lot of people are afraid that there's spike protein in the vaccinated blood, and the Red Cross says that they don't test for it. So here, I do not consent to receiving any blood transfusions that contain blood products derived from COVID vaccine donors or COVID variant vaccinated donors. And there's like safeblood.com, blessedbyhisblood.com. There's about 4 different places that you can sign up as a member to get unvaccinated blood transfusions if you need it.
It's right? A freaking nightmare out there.
Yeah, but this, what, we have you covered, Robert. We're trying to think of everything. There's other things you can add things, but one of the big things that you'll see in this document is that you do consent to the use of 1 milligram of budesonide, that inhaler, via nebulizer every 4 to 6 hours after COVID diagnosis, a variant, or any virus associated with respiratory issues. And that is a very healing thing. It's readily available. All the hospitals have it. They can't, I mean, if they say we don't carry that, they're lying, because it's like an albuterol inhaler, like all the asthmatics use it.
You think it's a remote thing about getting admitted to a hospital, but I was in a hot bath last month and I fainted, and my wife called the paramedics, and the next thing you knew, I was in the freaking ER for 8 hours trying to figure out why I fainted. And of course, it was just a hot bath with a lot of magnesium in it. But they insisted on a big workup, and fortunately, I was awake the whole time, so they couldn't slip a needle in me.
That's
But
good. Yeah.
but it's a real risk, especially I'm 72. So it's a
Yeah.
risk. The older you get, you're going to be clapped in irons and taken to the hospital. And I was not very with it when I was transported.
There you go. I mean, and a lot of people, a lot of elders, 65 and older, they trip and fall and break a hip, right? Or a femur. And if that happens, you go to the ER for that, you're going to go to surgery and you're not going to go home. You're going to go to a nursing facility or a rehab facility. And so this document can follow you wherever you go and remain active.
Is Laura still on the phone?
Yes, it dropped, she said.
Oh, that's
There
okay.
it dropped. Okay. And I just got a text message. Dr. Margaret, I'm admitted to a hospital and somebody enters my hospital room and says he's my physician. I'm out of here. I pick up nefariousness. Like, you don't have to be afraid, though. Like, this is such a great document because it falls within their purview. It gets delivered over the head of the doctors and the nurses. It tells you request and consent to implement alternative treatments for COVID, including ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, fluvoxamine, this and that, and that you request and consent to alternative treatments for various virus diagnoses, such as, but not limited to, bird flu, chikungunya, Nipah, Marburg, Ebola, hantavirus. So we mentioned that for you a couple of times. Laura has had somebody who had a high dose vitamin C infusion once that the
Really?
hospital allowed them to get.
They did
Yes.
that.
Yes.
That's great.
And then you have to get it notarized. You don't sign it. You go to the bank, get it notarized for free. And then so that's a big part of why this works, because it's notarized. It's a protective document that falls within a legal framework.
It's crazy.
Yeah, the fact that we needed it all is terrible, but the fact that we have it is great.
Well, I appreciate you, Margaret. What other issues do you want to bring up about this?
Well, I just think, healthcare and hospitals are really a lot of times not our friends. They're looking
A lot of times they're
these.
as bad as big pharma. They just aren't as well publicized, and they get a lot of charity and community support and all that, but they're nefarious, very powerful. Their gross revenues are 40% of the healthcare budget. It's sick.
Yeah, they're in there to make money. And let's talk a little bit about cancer and alternative cancer treatments and chemotherapy. A lot of people say it's not the cancer that kills you, it's the chemotherapy. And the alternative treatments, my husband had bladder cancer, stage 1, high-grade papillary cancer. He got 1 dose of gemcitabine chemotherapy distilled. It was swished into his bladder, and without proper informed consent. They told us everything about it after it was done. And fortunately/unfortunately, he got a really bad reaction and had a lot of muscle inflammation. So much so he was bent over like an old man walking with a walker for a week. Well, thank God, because he decided at that time, I ain't going to go through
It's
this.
not for me.
I'm not going to do it. Right. So he's been fasting, which helps cancer even fasting before chemotherapy helps target the cancer cells and not all your cells. He's been praying, number one, and he's also been doing ivermectin, fenbid, apricot seeds slash laetrile, even eating apricot seeds has been very effective. I've researched all of this. We have a protocol for him. And, there's a lot of things to do. There's no magic pill for cancer, but we see SV40, right, in the mRNA vaccines. And a lot of people are worried that they're going to get cancer.
Don't forget chlorine dioxide.
There you go. There you go.
And I've got at the top of every post, I've got the Apocalypse Almanac, and there's a chapter in there called Cure Cancer in Your Kitchen. And I detail all these, a lot of it, not everything you mentioned, but.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The other big mistake I think that oncologists make is that once somebody becomes cancer free, the oncologist says, okay, bye, see you in 6 months or see you in a year. You even see the athletes that are declared cancer free, they come back 3 years later and they die because it went everywhere. The oncologists we see are not assuming that it's going to come back, that there are stem cells, cancer stem cells in there that are going to get angry and sort of hide away and come back later. And so Ed, even though he was declared cancer free and given a 1-year workup, is remaining on everything that he was doing to become cancer free.
Well, I don't know if you have to take everything, but you ought to at least take Fenbin or something.
Yeah, he's doing ivermectin, Fenbin, both. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Plus anti-protozoal, plus, a whole lot of different things, chlorophyll, vitamin D. I mean, the list goes on and on, but he's real happy.
The oncologists have a carve out where they're allowed to get kickbacks of about 20% of the cancer chemo drug that's administered in the office. It would be illegal. It would be a capping, which is a federal crime if it were between two specialties or in any other circumstance. But for some reason, they gave this to oncologists. And that makes oncology the most expensive specialty because these things cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, even millions in some cases. I mean, it's just an outrage, and the damn oncologists just rake in the money. I mean, it's a completely crazy thing. There's only about 5 entities that have any mortality improvement with chemo. The rest of it is just bullshit from start to finish. And radiation oncology is an outrage because no entity except for one has any improvement in the death rate due to radiation oncology. And it's universally delivered, universally for every cancer, virtually. I mean, the whole thing is it's like another dystopian scenario that you can hardly believe exists in the modern world. I mean, it's just irrational and based only on lucre, money.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But I think that a lot of people have opened their eyes to this. I didn't know how bad it was before COVID.
If people understood this, these people would be lynched.
Yeah.
Literally. We hang them up by their necks from the nearest lamppost. I mean, it's an outrage of what they're up to.
Yeah, it really is. It's a very concerted effort by a lot of people in powerful positions. And, we don't even know like what they're doing to our air and our water, like everything we have to question. It's amazing that we have learned so much over the last 5 or 6 years, but there are a lot of people that are never going to fall for this again.
We were slapped awake by COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, we were. Just like my husband, like he was slapped awake, with 1 dose of chemo. And now, like I didn't realize.
Didn't you tell that son of a gun not to do it?
I did, but he's
DFL, right? Didn't freaking listen.
You know what? I'll say this. Family is the hardest person to talk to.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Try to convince your wife of anything. It doesn't work because they don't freaking listen. DFL, right? So if you are done with this presentation, if you don't mind, give us just a sketch of your hero's journey from regular anesthesia pain doctor into where you are now. Just the outlines of it, if you're willing to do that.
Sure, sure. Well, I was doing anesthesia critical care. A lot of people don't realize that my daughter and I were in a bad car accident back in 2005. Right there in front of Pepperdine University in Malibu, a lady lost control of her car and T-boned us at 90 miles an hour in the
Oh,
rear
come on.
tire.
Really? It really was
Rear
90 miles an
tire.
hour?
You didn't know this, Robert?
You lived through
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
No.
she spun us and more than a circle. So I ended up, my daughter was fine. She's a nursing student now. Thank the Lord she's fine. But I ended up with a TBI with DI. So I had a traumatic brain injury. My pituitary gland knocked out my ability to hold on to water. I ended up with severe dysautonomia no doctor had heard of. They all thought I was pretending. I had POTS,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
ended up and fainted. I had a neurogenic bladder. I had gastroparesis. I had something called malday debarkment. I had a left vertebral artery dissection and aneurysm. So the
Oh
lady
my
ripped an
God.
artery in my neck,
Yeah.
right? So I was bedridden for 12 years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, 12 years. So I know what it's like to suffer. And then God raised me up. I got my license and I activated it. I took over a pain clinic that I inherited. I assumed the practice, and then COVID hit, and boom, I just like rose to the occasion because nobody was prescribing ivermectin and people were calling me for it. And that's essentially it. So I used my anesthesia to do polypharmacy basically on people. But there's a lot of things, like if you don't have ivermectin, you can use Nigella sativa or black seed oil, right? If you don't have hydroxychloroquine, you can just drink green tea. It's EGCG and take it with zinc. So I learned so much.
And Margaret got pounded by the medical board. And
Oh, yes, I forgot about that part.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's a good thing to forget about it because I'm sure it was pretty
it was
nasty.
bad. Yeah, it was bad. I got it worse than most doctors. I believe that they saw all of my prescriptions going out through the electronic medical record, so they knew how much ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine I was prescribing. Because California tried to pass a law in that regard that they can access your patient's charts without your permission or their permission. I started getting complaints from them. But what really did it was you remember AB 2098, that disinformation bill that Governor Newsom was trying to get passed? That was in 2022, October. Well, it was the last day that he could either veto it or accept it or do nothing. So nobody in California was doing a thing. No doctors were, doing a press release opposing it. Nothing. The voices were very small. So I organized a press conference. I had Lee Dundas go, Steve Kirsch was there, Dr. Lynn Saputo, like a whole bunch of advocates, even a teenager who was well known to the state capitol. And we spent the day opposing it. Well, boom, 10 days later, not only did I get a letter demanding, that I not have a license, but there were two medical board agents wearing black suits and guns on their holsters who followed me and tried to find me in 5 different places to deliver a manila envelope with my handwritten name on it. And it was demanding me that I give them the charts of 3 patients.
Did the patients give consent for that?
No
Well,
consent.
that's against the rules.
Yeah, exactly. So they asked me to violate not only my patient-physician relationship and ethics in general, but HIPAA. And some of these patients, I were there in the previous clinic for 10 years. Their charts were, you remember the big paper charts.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were gigantic, and there were 3 of them. There's no way I was going to give that up. So instead of violating my patients, I said, no, I ain't going to do it. So I became a CTP, a tribal practitioner, and I'm outside of the state system. And I don't do a whole lot, but what I do is helpful. And God bless me. I've been through a lot, and I had a lot of patience and know what to do in a lot of situations. So I'm real grateful that I'm also a writer on Substack like you, and I host X Spaces on the former Twitter with the Dr. Margaret Show. So I'm always interviewing doctors and advocates and people, post-vaccine injury. We've got the McCairn Edogawa protocol now for vaccine injury that uses plasma apheresis and stem cell supernatant, basically a two-step process we don't have in America. I'm helping fundraise for 6 protocols to help the vaccine injured. So I'm always looking for some way to help people, and I get like recruited for different things. But you know what? I have a great capacity, and God bless me. Can you imagine? I couldn't even walk or talk. I was bedridden for 12 years, and now God has me doing all this. I shouldn't even be here.
How did you recover? Was it you just
I
spontaneously gradually improved, or what
I
happened?
gradually improved, but I think the thing that really did it is I had a near death experience. And so I had a conversation with God. And he told me to, like, I saw, him as a bright sun. He told me I could go up. I saw the big, gigantic stairway and the clouds at the top, like everybody sees. And I got all the way to the top. I floated up there, and he said, "You can go in." But I looked back and I saw planet Earth. I'm like, "Oh, should I go?" I'm like, I feel so ungrateful. I know where I'm going when I die, but I'm not ready. I've got a 2-year-old over there. I don't want to leave my baby. I mean, I'm going to start crying just thinking about it. But I begged him with everything in me to let me come back. And even then, it still took 12 years. It was perfect timing. It was like he waited for COVID to bring me back full swing.
Well, that story sort of brought tears to my eyes, and I think it's a good place to you know cut it off and say thank you, Margaret. Is there anything else you want to bring up or talk about? Tell us about your contact info.
The best place to find me is probably either on Twitter at Dr. Margaret Show, or I write a Substack also. It's therebelpatient.substack.com. I'm a writer and a podcaster now, and so I'm constantly looking to bring alternative care to people and empower them with their health to think and to make good decisions.
Well, you're really something, Margaret, and I'm appreciative for your time. Thanks again.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me, Dr. Robert Riojo. You're amazing, and I look up to you so much. And I
Don't
love
look
that
up to me. You're the genius. I'm just a middling intellect.
I wasn't, my dad was a computer programmer. My mom ended up being an accountant. There's nobody in medicine in my family. God just opened those doors for me. I got accepted to one medical school, one internship, one residency program, one fellowship, and God's just been leading my way.
Well, thanks again, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you. Sounds wonderful. Appreciate you.